Hi there. Today I'm going to be doing my Perspective 2026 release TBR. Now, this year I have already read two books that released this year that I wanted to get to. Hemlock by Melissa Faliveno, which I reviewed in one of my February wrap-ups, and Is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. But I have a couple of other books, about 6 that I would like to read that were released recently or are about to be released this year. So stick around and we will get right into it. The first book I would like to get to is called American Spirits by Anna Dorn. This is loosely based on a mashup between Lana Del Rey and Taylor Swift, and it follows a singer-songwriter in her late 30s who has this very close relationship with her producer, and people speculate if they are actually in a queer relationship. There's like a whole fandom dedicated to trying to figure out her sexuality, and I guess it takes place during the pandemic. She ends up holing away to a recording studio in the woods, and she hires an assistant that is one of her Reddit moderators on this Reddit subreddit dedicated to her. And I guess things go a little odd, a little off. Now, I'm not really a fan of Taylor Swift. I do think the whole Gaylor thing surround her is quite fascinating, but I am a Lana fan, at least of her musically. I even dressed up as her one time for like a Lana Del Rey DJ music night. So as soon as I heard about this last year, I was like, I have to read this. The next book I would like to get to is called A Good Person by Kirsten King. This is about a man and a woman in a situationship, and the woman, Lillian, I guess thinks that this is going to go somewhere, and then the man abruptly breaks up with her. He ends up dead, and she becomes the prime suspect in his murder. But then to compound things, she finds out that he secretly had a long-term girlfriend the whole time and never told her. When I read the back of this book, I thought that, I was like, that gives away a lot of the plot. So I hope there's more to it than this. There's more like twists, because I hate when summaries give away so much, but we'll see. The next book I actually have a physical copy of. I got it from my library, and it is A Beast Slinks Towards Beijing by Alice Evelyn Yang. This was recently longlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. That's how I heard about it. It was released in January, and it is one of those kind of like multi-generational family sagas, but it follows a woman who, her father disappeared. She's Chinese American when she was a teenager, and one day, many decades later, she finds him just like wandering around in her backyard, and he is not quite with it. And so he tells her that there is a haunted, half-forgotten prophecy that is consuming him. And it follows, I guess it's like a historical account of China. Her father was a Red Guard during the Cultural Revolution, and her mother, we also get into her mother's youth under Japanese occupation. Japan occupied Manchuria. So it reminded me a little bit of Flashlight by Susan Choi, but it also kind of sounded similar to, or I think she was actually inspired by Pachinko, which I have yet to read, in terms of the effects of Japanese colonization throughout East Asia. But I'm very excited to read this. I will probably be doing it in my May wrap up, but hopefully this is a good one. The next book was released this past month on May 12th, and it is We Dance Upon Demons by Vaishnavi Patel. It is about a reproductive health care worker in Chicago, Nisha, who is having to deal with the current political climate of protesters and abortion bans, and is trying to battle this with her depression. And there is a magical realism element to this that probably incorporates elements of Indian mysticism. She goes apparently to an Indian art exhibit and then finds herself bleeding, disoriented, and collapsed on the ground. The last thing she remembers is a statue that beckoned her to touch it. In the days that follow, Anisha feels a strange power coursing within her, one that attracts a host of dangerous and enigmatic characters who covet for themselves. You know, it reminds me a little bit of, the concept, not the plot, is I had The Seven Moons of Maali Almeida by Shehan Karunatilaka. So I'm curious to read it to see how all of these different disparate elements, particularly the current political climate here in the US, are incorporated. The next book on my list is a nonfiction, and that is called Here Where We Live Is Our Country, the story of the Jewish Bund by Maali Crabapple. It's a historical account of the Bundists, I think, so you say it, in Eastern Europe. That was a very large socialist, Jewish, anti-imperialist, and anti-Zionist movement that existed in the late, 19th century and early to mid 20th century, and how they resisted both anti-Semitism and fascism, as well as the growing movement of Zionism, which pitted them against each other in terms of their conflicting ideologies. And the Bund was also instrumental in armed resistance, fighting back against the Nazis. Apparently they were very much involved with the famous Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And Maali Crabapple has a personal vested interest in this topic because I think her great-grandfather was actually involved with the Bundists. So I think that there is, in light of this shift away from Zionism, I think there is a growing movement towards forging a Jewish identity outside of that. And I will be really curious to see and learn a history that is very much suppressed and forgotten about. And then the last book I want to read is a book that has been getting a lot of buzz, and that is Yesteryear by Claire Burke. This is about a trad wife influencer that gets literally transported to the 1800s in a rural farming community, and she exists in this dimension where her husband and children are there, but everything is completely off. It's like an alternate dimension. And she has to grapple with what is going on. Is this a hoax? Is it a reality show? Is she going mad? And she has to escape. So obviously this is a satire on the trad wife influencing lifestyle, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm very curious to see how the author plays with all of these concepts. And yeah, that's it. Those are all of the 6 books, I think, that I want to read. I know that I probably will be reading more 2026 releases later in the year, but I just am not really aware of what else is coming out in the second quarter or second half of the year. But yeah, let me know if you have read any of these books, or if you would like to, or what else you are interested in reading that is a 2026 release. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.